Let's start with our political story of the day. It's not even been a week since Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Joseph Vijay was sworn into office, and the TVK government in Tamil Nadu is already facing its first big test on the alliance front. Earlier today, the CPIM said it would reconsider and possibly even withdraw support to the government if the TVK were to include rebels from the AIADMK in the government. For context, the TVK is in government with support from 4 parties in Tamil Nadu, including the Congress, the VCK, the CPI and CPIM. However, ever since the government came to be, a rebellion within the AIADMK has ensued, which has seen a 25-member faction of the party making a case for joining forces with the TVK. It's precisely that possibility that's got the left worried, with the CPIM now saying that it would reconsider support even if the party were to join hands with a breakaway faction of the AIADMK. Let's listen in to what the CPIM's State Secretary P. Shanmugam had to say.
இப்ப தாவேகாவுக்கு ஆதரவு அளித்திருப்பது என்பது மீண்டும் ஒரு உடனடியாக ஒரு தேர்தலை சந்திப்பதற்கு தமிழ்நாடு தயாராக இல்லை. இரண்டாவது, கொல்லைப்புற வழியாக பிஜேபி ஆட்சி நடத்தக்கூடிய வகையில் குடியரசுத் தலைவர் ஆட்சி ஏற்பட்டுவிடக் கூடாது. மூன்றாவது, மக்களுடைய தீர்ப்பு என்பது திமுக அணி அதிமுக அணி இரண்டுக்குமே எதிராகத்தான் இருந்திருக்கிறது. அதே நேரத்தில் எந்த ஒரு அணிக்கும் எந்த ஒரு கட்சிக்கும் அறுதி பெரும்பான்மை இல்லை என்கிற நிலையில் ஒரு தனிப்பெரும் கட்சி என்கிற முறையில் 108 இடங்களில் வெற்றி பெற்றிருப்பது தாவேகா தான். ஆகவே ஆட்சி அமைப்பதற்கான வாய்ப்பு அவர்களுக்கு தான் இருக்கிறது. அந்த அடிப்படையில் மக்களால் தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்ட ஒரு அரசு தமிழ்நாட்டில் அமைய வேண்டும் என்கிற நோக்கத்தோடு தாவேகாவுக்கு வெளியிலிருந்து ஆதரவு தருவது என்கிற முறையில் இடதுசாரி கட்சிகள் விடுதலை சிறுத்தைகள் நாங்கள் அறிவித்திருக்கிறோம். அந்த அடிப்படையில் ஆட்சி என்பது அமையப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. அதிமுகவை அவர்கள் அமைச்சரவையில் சேர்த்துக் கொள்வதோ அவர்களுடைய ஆதரவை தொடர்ந்து பெறுவது என்பதோ மக்களுடைய தீர்ப்புக்கு எதிரானது. அவர் சொல்லியிருக்கிற கிளீன் கவர்னன்ஸ், ஒரு நல்லாட்சி என்பதற்கே விரோதமாக அது அமையும். ஏற்கனவே அதிமுக திமுக அணி ரெண்டுக்கும் எதிராகத்தான் மக்கள் வாக்களித்திருக்கிறார்கள். அத்தகைய அணியினுடைய ஒரு ஆதரவை பெற்று தாவேகா என்பது ஆட்சியில் தொடர்வது என்பது மக்களுடைய தீர்ப்புக்கு விரோதமாக அமையும். நிச்சயமாக அத்தகைய ஒரு நிலைக்கு அவர்கள் செல்ல மாட்டார்கள் என்று நான் நம்புகிறேன். மீறி அவர்கள் அதிமுகவுடைய ஒரு கோஷ்டியை சேர்த்துக் கொள்வதோ அதிமுகவோடு சேர்ந்து கொண்டு ஆட்சி அமைப்பதோ என்கிற முடிவுக்கு தாவேகா செல்லுமானால் நிச்சயமாக எங்களுடைய முடிவை நாங்கள் மறுபரிசீலனை செய்வோம்.
Shifting focus to Karnataka next, the Siddaramaiah government completes 3 years in power today, but the occasion is far from stable for the government as well as the Congress party in the state. Amid the ongoing and growing chorus for a leadership change in Karnataka, we're now hearing reports that Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge has in fact gone into a huddle with Siddaramaiah as well as his deputy D.K. Shivkumar. The issue is to do with a faction of the Congress party in Karnataka wanting D.K. Shivkumar to take over the reins of the state government and be sworn in as chief minister. Earlier this week, senior Congress leader and state minister Satish Jarkiholi had said that the tussle could soon be over as the Congress High Command was keen on bringing the curtains down, in his words, on the tussle between both leaders. Shifting focus to the corporate space next, Star Health Insurance has launched a health insurance plan for Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets. Now, the insurer's Value Plus plan, that's what they're calling it, and the company says this will see premiums down by 20% with some insured covers up to 25 lakh rupees. In fact, in an exclusive chat with ET Now, MD and CEO of Star Health Insurance, Anand Roy, told me that coupled with the 0% GST on individual health covers, customers in smaller towns could effectively pay insurance premiums that are 40% cheaper. And all this with the aim of improving insurance penetration across the country by making them a tad affordable. So here's a slice of that conversation that I had with Anand Roy of Star Health Insurance.
I think the larger point is how do we increase penetration of health insurance in the country, and that's the initiative that we are taking through this new product, Value Plus, where we are kind of offering a product which is 20% cheaper than our regular offerings in those markets. And now with the 18% GST waiver also, so there's effectively a 40%, almost a 40% discount to the customer through this product. So I think the intent is to increase penetration in the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. And Star Health has always been a middle income and upper middle income focused company. So that's a target segment we are going forward with. As far as your question of medical inflation is concerned, that's a larger challenge the whole industry is facing. But while we have done our actuarial pricing for these products and giving this discount, we have also offered it on a valued network. So we have identified a cohort of around 11,000 quality hospitals on the back of whom these products and services are offered. So we believe that this will be a profitable product, but at the same time, the larger intent is to increase the penetration.
Right. And you bring up the network, and incidentally, my next question was going to be, you've introduced this network of hospitals as part of the plan. Do you foresee customers in rural India, Tier 3, Tier 4 cities to actually go about getting in line with the network of hospitals that you've offered? Or do you see there to be some resistance with regard to actually getting with this network offering and aligning themselves with these hospitals as part of the offering? Or, as is seen in most other Western countries with regard to a network chain itself, given that the market here is Tier 3 and Tier 4, how challenging do you see this alignment with the network to be?
No, sure. I think, see, the product construct itself has been arrived at from ground up, right? I mean, we have done multiple surveys with customers, existing customers, potential customers, our distributors. And the common feedback that we got was, this is the way the product has been designed, that affordability continues to be a challenge, though the 18% GST waiver has resulted in a huge uptick in the growth of the industry. But in the smaller cities, we are still seeing that, people are concerned about the cost of health insurance and healthcare in general. So I think this kind of solves for both. Customers want a good network of hospitals. They want access to the hospitals which is nearby to their residences. But at the same time, they are interested in an affordable health insurance plan. I think this kind of covers all the asks of the customers from the surveys that we have conducted, and we believe that this will be quite successful.
Right. Anand, you talk about how affordability is a challenge insofar as Tier 2, 3, 4 markets are concerned. So should you crack the code and make this effective 40% discount really viable for the customer and for you from a business standpoint, what is the upside to be had? What is the market that you're working with as far as Tier 2, Tier 3 and Tier 4 India is concerned, and how much of that are you willing to and are you able to go about filling in?
Okay, I mean, see, the initiative for Star Health over the last 20 years, we complete 20 years of our foundation this year. And our strategy has always been to increase penetration of health insurance by innovation and by bringing, affordable products. So this is a quest in that direction going forward. But I think, mostly what we have seen is we have a 30% plus market share in the industry. And if you look at the smaller cities, I think probably we'll have an even higher market share in those cities. Right. I think the idea is to increase penetration in these markets, because if we have to move towards the objective of insurance for all by 2047, it cannot be achieved without going into the smaller towns and hinterlands of the country. I think that's what we are attempting to do here. While we are already a market leader in all these cities, we believe that there's a lot of work to be done even further. Right. So this is the product that we're thinking that will help us to achieve those objectives. Right.
Let's talk business for a bit, Anand. The last few years have seen some degree of elevated claims ratios and also some margin pressures that the company has been facing. So in FY27, what are the key financial metrics that Star Health Insurance will be focusing on for the fiscal?
Absolutely. I think in the last fiscal itself, in FY26, we have seen a significant improvement in our financial outcomes, both in terms of reduction in loss ratios as well as reduction in combined ratio. I think all of this was achieved through the better, all the strategies that we put in place over the last 12 to 18 months, in terms of product repricing, in terms of our underwriting discipline, in terms of letting go of certain markets and certain segments of business that was heavily loss-making for us. So I think we have gone through that phase. Now the company is growing well, and we believe that going forward, it will be a sustainable and profitable growth for the organization. While I don't want to comment on a particular number, I believe that our loss ratios and our overall combined ratio will come down every year with the efforts that we are taking. Right. Yeah.
Even as competition in the health insurance space is also to go up, of course, on the back of that 100% FDI, the almost universal focus on better penetration as far as India is concerned, and the possibility of more players entering the fray. For Star Health Insurance itself, what will be the key growth levers that you will be focusing on to beat competition and continue to sustain that growth that you already encountered for yourself? And what will be the overall growth strategy for you as far as the medium term is concerned?
So Star Health has maintained its market share despite heavy competition in this industry, and the competition already exists, for the last 5 years or so post-COVID. I think interest in health insurance has become really, it's very significant, both from the consumer point of view as well as industry players' point of view. So we have held our own despite the huge competition. What we are very thankful for is a kind of distribution and the kind of consumer base that we have created across the country, and in terms of the service capabilities that we have created. So we have a very large brand presence across the country. We have 900 offices. We have almost 1 million agents who market our policies across the country, and almost 15,000 hospitals. We are able to gain the trust of the customers because of being a large player and a very well-established one. I think that will hold us in good stead. But having said that, I think we have to continue to innovate. We have to continue to kind of stay ahead of the competition, and that's what we are trying to do with this particular product, especially focused on the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities.
Right. Anand, you spoke about how interest in health insurance has gone up since the COVID years, but the fact is, and you I'm sure will admit to this, health insurance penetration in India still remains abysmally low. At the risk of perhaps playing devil's advocate, do you think insurers have done enough to actually make products more viable, more interesting, perhaps less complex for large swaths of the Indian population that have as yet not embraced health insurance? What is the problem really as far as the penetration standpoint is concerned?
I think that's a very good point you're making, and I would admit that, insurance companies have to do more. And I think, health insurance as a service is very essential, and I think now with the government also giving this dispensation of 18% GST being waived off, I think it's time for insurance companies to do more, and what we need to do is bring more new to insurance customers into the franchise, right? I mean, I think that is something that we are all at least Star Health is trying to do, and create awareness in the local markets, create products and services which are affordable in nature. I think given the potential in the market, probably the penetration levels are relatively lower than what it should be ideally. I think, but now with this 18% waiver of GST, I think the growth rate has picked up quite a bit in all the players, and we should expect that to sustain for a long period of time.
Right. Yeah. And all of that notwithstanding, I think one of the big concerns that most customers here in India have with regard to overall health insurance is that premium inflation and claim disputes as well. Do you feel there's ample potential for the industry to improve transparency levels and also involve better customer trust limits or levels in terms of pushing and improving penetration? Is that something that the insurers could possibly work on?
Absolutely, and it has to be done in collaboration with the hospital partners each insurance company has. So multiple efforts are being done in this area, right? I mean, at a company level, we have a network of 15,000 hospitals who we are working very closely with to make sure that customer experience is at the top level when customers need them the most, right? I mean, that's what it is all about. Buying insurance is all about the claim services. I think we are trying to improve that as much as possible in collaboration with the hospitals. We are also creating network of hospitals which are more aligned to our service capabilities and to our thought processes. I think that we are doing at the company level. But even at the industry level, I think it's important to be mindful that there's a lot of work going on at the council level also. There's a common empanelment of hospitals. There's a process which is already in the works. I think today a hospital, especially the smaller hospitals, can enroll into the insurance franchise just by enrolling with a common empanelment. That's a wonderful service which is being offered to hospitals. So more and more hospitals should come and become part of the insurance franchise as well, so that they can get good business out of the insurance penetration going up. I think instead of, earlier every hospital had to go to 10, 15 different insurance companies to get enrolled. Now with a single enrollment, they can get the full industry at their disposal. Right. I think these kind of innovations that we are bringing about should help in creating that trust factor between hospitals and insurance company, which will eventually flow into the customer experience.
Well, Star Health Insurance there with a policy that's literally tailor-made for small towns, effectively giving customers a whopping 40% price advantage when compared to policies that are available present day, coupled, of course, with that big advantage on the waiver on GST on health insurance. But moving on to Kerala next, in one of its big policy and infra overhauls, the Satheesan-led UDF government in the state is preparing to scrap the controversial Silver Line semi-high-speed rail corridor. The project, remember, was envisioned by the LDF government, and it had initially aimed to connect Thiruvananthapuram in the state capital to Kasaragod through a 530-kilometer high-speed network. However, the project faced intense resistance over land acquisition, environmental concerns, and rehabilitation issues. The UDF now says the project is financially unviable and socially disruptive, arguing that Kerala cannot afford the massive debt burden linked to the rail corridor. Instead, the government is pitching upgrades to the existing rail network and an alternative mobility project as a more practical solution. And in Bengaluru, Apple is doubling down on the Indian market. The iPhone maker has now begun hiring for its second retail store in the city that's likely to open around the Whitefield and Mahadevpura area. Now, the move is part of Apple's aggressive India expansion strategy as demand for premium smartphones continues to surge. The company has already expanded beyond its flagship Mumbai and Delhi outlets, adding more stores in Bengaluru, Pune, Noida, and even a second location in Mumbai. Reports now say Hyderabad is also next on Apple's radar in the country. For more on this, my colleague Sumita joins us with an update. Sumita, over to you.
Absolutely. So some of the that you mentioned, they also include manager, senior manager, genius, creative, specialist roles, and these have been posted on Apple Retail's career portals for Bengaluru. If you sort of look into the portal, so this is yet another effort by Apple to further expand its retail footprint in India, and of course, Apple now has plans of opening a second store in Bengaluru. From the looks of these job openings, in fact, this really highlights the iPhone maker's increased focus on one of the fastest growing global markets as far as smartphones are concerned. And in fact, Apple is not just sort of retailing smartphones, it's manufacturing smartphones as well. It is also emerging, as one of the key companies that's also exporting smartphones from India. So if we essentially look at the trajectory of Apple as far as its retail footprint is concerned, remember this comes months after Apple opened its additional retail outlets in Mumbai's Borivali, and then in NCR region, in Noida Mall of India, there's another outlet, and that really accelerates its retail expansion strategy in India. In fact, the company earlier this year, and ET now had reported it had initiated a recruitment for similar retail roles in Hyderabad as well, and that signals a broader plan of the company to keep deepening its presence across Indian cities. Remember, the company began its retail journey in India in 2020, and after that, we did see the very first of its physical stores come in Mumbai, in Apple BKC, and in Apple Saket in New Delhi in April 2023. And since then, we have seen steady expansion by the company as far as its retail presence is concerned. And of course, manufacturing is another arm of the Apple story here in India.
Well, thanks, Sumita, for that update. Apple, they're expanding its market presence on the retail front in India, and its port of choice, incidentally, is Bengaluru, which comes as no surprise. And part of the reason why it's coming as no surprise is simply because while we're on the topic of expansion itself, US financial software giant Intuit is expanding its India footprint, leasing out more than 6.3 lakh square feet of office space in, you guessed it, Bengaluru. Now, the port of choice for Intuit is Embassy Tech Village, where it's all set to take form and shape. The deal is reported to be valued at well over 915 crore rupees. Now, the 10-year lease by Intuit is among the largest GCC-focused office transactions in this city this year. Needless to say, the expansion underlines just how Bengaluru continues to attract global tech and fintech giants building engineering, AI, and product development teams in India. Intuit also joins a growing list of multinational firms betting big on India's GCC ecosystem and deep tech talent pool. But it isn't just Bengaluru that's raking in the GCC moolah. US-based HR tech firm Insolved has opened a new GCC in Hyderabad, marking its largest campus outside the United States. The company says the facility will serve as a major hub for product engineering, AI development, customer experience, and global operations. The move adds to Hyderabad's growing reputation as one of India's hottest GCC destinations, with many multinational firms choosing the city for large-scale tech and innovation centers. That's on the back of competitive costs, deep talent availability, and strong infrastructure that continues to drive the leasing trend across the city. In fact, transactions like these are now seeing Hyderabad's office market almost lose itself to a GCC-led surge, which in turn is seeing rentals in the city climbing to record highs and nearly matching those in Bengaluru. According to real estate consultant Cushman & Wakefield, average office rents in Hyderabad have actually jumped 11.6% year-on-year in the March quarter to over 92 rupees per square foot per month. The rally, of course, is being driven by aggressive expansion from global capability centers and large multinational occupiers. Hyderabad, remember, also recorded its strongest ever first quarter leasing performance, with gross leasing volumes rising nearly 22% to 3.15 million square feet. Now, prime office hubs like Madhapur are now seeing rentals cross 105 rupees per square foot, while vacancy levels in premium A+ grade assets have dropped to below 5% amid tightening supply. So for all you know, Hyderabad used to be seen as a more cost-effective GCC or tech hub when compared to Bengaluru. But for all you know, both Hyderabad and Bengaluru, two neighbors in South India, are seeing competition in terms of outdoing each other on the price front. And it isn't just software or fintech majors moving key tech hubs to the city of Hyderabad. In fact, US aviation giant Southwest Airlines, with its headquarters in Dallas, Texas, has opened its first global innovation center outside the United States, and it's chosen, you guessed it, Hyderabad. The airline says the new facility will focus on AI, engineering, analytics, and digital platforms as part of its next phase of technology-led growth. Now, the Hyderabad Center is expected to hire 1,000 professionals and will support Southwest's global business and technology operations. So a big aviation major there, choosing Hyderabad to set up shop, even as it looks to expand its AI footprint in the city, its first one outside the United States. And moving on to news from the entertainment space now, George Kutty is back, and the box office simply cannot keep calm. Film trade analysts have said Mohanlal's much-awaited Drishyam 3, the third part, remember, of the Drishyam franchise, has crossed more than 21 crore rupees in advance bookings worldwide, with trade trackers even expecting an opening day haul of whopping 35 crore rupees. Now, the Jeetu Joseph directorial marks the return of one of Indian cinema's most iconic thriller characters, and the hype is translating into massive demand across Kerala, the Gulf, and overseas markets. Industry watchers say the film is now headed for one of the biggest openings ever for a Malayalam film. And the most interesting part, of course, is that a large part of those advance bookings are from the state of Kerala itself, which is a significant 5.5 crore rupees that Kerala has now accounted for of that total of 21 crore rupees. And we're only talking advance bookings for the film itself, as Drishyam 3 is all set to make its premiere across the country and the rest of the world. Meanwhile, it's a tragic story that's been doing the rounds for the last couple of days now, but its aftermath can only be described as both brave and heartwarming. The 33-year-old tourist from Chennai who was crushed by an elephant at the Dubare elephant camp in Kodagu has had her eyes donated. The decision was made by the victim's grief-stricken husband Joel, who opted for the donation. On Monday, for context, 33-year-old Jinsu from Chennai tragically lost her life as a clash between two elephants at the Dubare elephant camp in Kodagu saw one of the animals lose its balance and fall on the tourist, who succumbed to her injuries. The elephant that fell also lost its life in the aftermath, but that heroic and heartwarming decision made by the victim's husband Joel there to donate her eyes in the aftermath of what is no doubt a deeply personal tragedy has no doubt sparked off a lot of praise for that decision taken amid the throes of grief. And on that note, it's a wrap on today's episode of South Central. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow for more news and market updates from South India. For the moment, it's goodbye from us.